You've now seen how you can click and drag on an object to change values in the underlying program, and you've seen how Sketch and Sketch will use heuristics to pick a value to change when there is ambiguity. You've also seen how sliders can provide an interface to specific variables to overcome ambiguity. In this section, we will contrast these two different methods for resolving ambiguity. We want to gain information about the question, is a direct manipulation heuristic better or worse than simply providing a slider for every constant in the program? To facilitate this comparison, we will perform a series of graphic editing tasks. Each task will be performed twice. The first time, we will perform the task using sliders to change the underlying variables. Direct manipulation will be allowed, but only when there is no ambiguity about what value to change. The second time, we will perform the task using direct manipulation only, without sliders. We will rely on Sketch and Sketch's heuristics to alter a value when there is ambiguity. After showing a task performed both ways, we will pause briefly and ask you to rate which interaction you think is better. Note that by either method, sliders or direct manipulation heuristics, not all edits will be possible without changing the code to modify the structure of the underlying program. We will have to edit the code from time to time. However, more or fewer program modifications may be required depending on the power of the manipulation method. Starting with the image on the left, we want to change it to match the image on the right. Alright, I have heuristics turned off, so if I try to directly manipulate something and there's ambiguity about what to change in the program, Sketch and Sketch won't let me do it. Okay, let's change this Ferris wheel up. I need to make the outer ring bigger, and it looks like I can do that. The length is the only thing that goes into this outer ring here. I also need to make these caps a little bit smaller. Let's see if we can grab their edge. Yeah, there we go. Alright. The cars need to get a little smaller as well. And it looks like if I grab the edge, I can grab that. I can do that as well. And the central hub needs to become smaller. Alright, this outer ring, we need to change the width of that. So where is that coming from? Should be this value right here. So we'll add a slider to it. We're also going to need a slider for the rotation of this wheel, so I'll just go ahead and add that now. Alright. And to change the number of cars in the wheel, we'll do that with a slider. Okay. Alright, so let's change up the thickness of that ring there. That looks pretty good. And we needed 8 spokes. Good. And then we need to rotate it slightly. We also wanted to color the first car pink. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. Make this a map I so we can get the index into the map function. And the index will be called I. All we have to do is if the index is 0, we'll use pink instead of light gray. So if the index is 0, use the expression pink, otherwise use the expression light gray. Alright, if we run that code, there we go. We have the first car 0, and now I can change the rotation so that first car is just back a little to the left of top. And there we have it. Okay, this time we won't use any sliders, and we'll try and use the heuristics. And if we still have some trouble, we may freeze a few constants. Alright, so again, we need to make it bigger. Get the outer rim bigger. There we go. Just got to grab the right thing there. The central hub needs to be a little bit smaller. Good. These caps need to be a little bit smaller. Let's see if I can. That's the cursor for it. Okay. Alright, and then the cars need to be a little bit smaller. Okay, and then I need to make this outer ring thinner, but there's no zone to do that, so I have to do that in the code. So let's cut it in half first. Okay, that's pretty close. Let's go a little smaller. Let's try 3 pixels. There we go, that's good. Now we need to get the spoke count up, so let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, and then again, we need to make this top car pink. So let's make this a map with index, so we can get the index, the car number in there. And if the car number is 0, then it will be pink. Otherwise, it will be light gray. Okay. Good. Now to rotate this, if I grab these caps, there's a lot of values that go into it, but if I freeze all but rotation, I should be able to rotate. So freeze the central X, freeze the number of cars, and freeze the length. And then if I run that, I should be able to grab the cap. Yes, there we go. And move it around. There we have it. Starting with the image on the left, we want to change it to match the image on the right. We need to take this keyboard and make it look a little more like an actual keyboard. Right now I have heuristics turned off, so if I try and grab something and there's ambiguity about what to update in the program, Sketch and Sketch will just do nothing. And it turns out for this program, there's a lot of values that go into determining the position of all the keys, so I can't really grab much other than moving around the back. So we will have to rely on sliders to tweak things. So to make this more realistic, on the first row, we're going to make this key a little wider. We're going to add end keys on the second row that are each the same width. And then on the third row, we'll add 2 end keys that are also each the same width. And on the final row, we'll add 2 keys next to the spacebar that are of equal width. Let's go ahead and do this. So that the first key here is represented by this 1 here in the array, and so we'll just add a slider to it so we can make it bigger. And then for the second and third rows, we'll make variables. And we'll start them out at 1.5 and then see where it goes from there. We'll add a slider to it so we can tweak it. Same for the third row. And then the 2 keys next to the spacebar that we want to add are called command keys on the Mac. Okay, so we just need to take these and add them to our array of key widths. Let's take a look. All right, I think we're getting closer. We can see that we need to add a couple more keys to this top row here. Maybe remove one from the second row and remove one from the third. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, we need to remove 2 from the third. Yeah, it's a little better. Okay, now let's see if we can use the sliders to tweak things up a bit. First, we want to make this key bigger. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, and then the second row, we'll change both end keys simultaneously with this slider. Third row, we'll change those simultaneously. And actually, I think this width is about good for the ones next to the spacebar, but we should change the spacebar width. We need to add a slider to the spacebar, so let's go ahead and do that. We can tweak that. And voila. We want to make the same edits, but this time we have heuristics turned on and we won't use any sliders. For the edits we want to do, either heuristics mode will allow us to do what we want. First thing, we wanted to make this key bigger, so we can just grab it directly, and it works. For the second and third row, we're going to introduce the variables again, so that we can ensure that the keys on both ends are the same size. We don't need to add a slider to it. We're going to do the same thing for the keys next to the spacebar as well. Add these into the rows. Add the keys next to the spacebar. Okay, let's take a look. Alright, it looks like we still need to add some more keys to the top row. Remove one from the second row and remove two from the third row. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, now I just need to do some tweaking. So I'll grab this key, and it changes the key on the other side too, which is nice. Looks good. I could grab it from over here. It'll work as well. It's good. Alright, and then we'll just make the spacebar smaller. Voila! So we have this tessellation example, and it comes from the Wikipedia page on wallpaper groups based on this design on the left. And we want to transform it so it looks a little more like this design on the right, although it won't be nearly as fancy. We're just going to hit the highlights. First, we want to get rid of the pink rectangles. Second, we want to take the green hexagons and push in the middle of each side so that each one looks a little bit more like a star. Finally, we want to flip around the red triangles so that each point of the triangle touches the tip of the green shape. Last thing before we get started is we want to see what is the primitive shape that's being repeated to make this tessellation. It's just this little triangle here. Starting with the image on the left, we want to change it to match the image on the right. Alright, heuristics are off. First thing we need to do is again cut it down to just the primitive triangle here that's repeated a bunch, and that's what we'll edit. First thing we need to do is get rid of these pink rectangles. So let's look for some pink shapes in the code. Oh, here we go. 2 pink shapes. That looks good. Alright, yep, they're gone. Now let's hover over a few points and see if we're allowed to edit any of them. If there's, okay, it looks like we can change the X value on that point. X value on all these points. That's not, I don't really want to change no, nothing useful. It's just X, I can change X and Y. No, it doesn't help us. Alright, so we'll have to use sliders to manipulate the pattern in here, which is fine. So let's go ahead and find the appropriate variable. It's this guy right here is what's controlling the radius of our of these green shapes, which turn into hexagons when the tessellation is completed. So let's add a slider to that. Alright. Yep, there we go. There we go. Okay, and what we want to do is we want these 3 points here, 1, 2, 3, to move separately from this point and this point. So we're going to need another variable, and we'll call it large inner radius. And we want to calculate this point and this point based on the large inner radius. So let's find our green shapes. Okay, so here's the first green shape. It starts at xy up here, and then the second point has the same x value, so it must be this point here, which is the one we want. So we'll go ahead and use large inner radius instead of small inner radius. Then we'll look at the next green shape, this guy. It starts in the corner here, and then it goes to this point or this point. I think it's this one. And then this guy here is the one we want to calculate based on large inner radius. So we'll go ahead and swap out for large inner radius. All right. All right, now let's see what happens. Ah, good. This is good. This is good. Good. All right, and the last thing we need to do is take this triangle so that this point is actually this point, and move this point down to this point. And then this point needs to be just straight across from this point here. So the triangle goes from here to here to here. Okay. So we can actually just copy and paste this point and this point right into the triangle. Let's look for the red. So there's the triangle. This point is the one with large inner radius that we just pasted. So that'll go, oop, no, we want the point part of it. Yeah, there we go. So that'll be our first point of the triangle. Yep. And then the second point will be this guy here, which is the other one with large inner radius. Put that there in the red shape. Oop. Good, good. It's turned into a sliver, but it should be fixed when we get to the third point. And then the last point should have the same y value as the point before, so we'll just copy that. And then the x value will just be this, which is the plain old x variable. There we go. Now let's turn on the entire tessellation and see what it looks like. And then we can tweak it. Hey, not bad. So I think we need to just pop the large radius out a little bit. Maybe not quite that much. And then make this small one just a little bit smaller. It's good. I think that's yeah, that's pretty close. That's pretty close. Good. Okay, we've turned heuristics back on, so we should be able to directly manipulate some more points. First things first, again, we need to cut it down to this perimeter triangle so that we can edit it. All right, now let's see, well, let's get rid of these pink rectangles first. Pink and pink. Okay, yep, these are the two shapes I need to delete. All right, good. All right, now let's hover over these points. Okay, that looks like it'll change small inner radius and x. So, good. This will just, oh, this one will just change small inner radius. That's great. Okay, good. All right, again, we need to, these 2 points here need to move together, but independent of this point, and this point. So we need to add another variable. So let's go find that small inner radius. And now we'll also have a large inner radius for each of these green shapes. Just remember those turn into the regular hexagons in the full tessellation. All right, so I want this point and this point to be calculated based on large inner radius instead of small inner radius. So let's find those again. First green shape here, x and y point is this one. Second point has the same x coordinate, so it must be this point here, the one we want. So instead of small inner radius, we'll use large inner radius. All right, now let's look for the next green shape. Here it is. First point's in the corner. Second point's on the bottom of the triangle still. And then the third point, yeah, this is the one we want to be based off of large inner radius instead. So we'll go ahead and paste that in there. Okay, and then now I should be able to directly yep, good, I can directly manipulate the large inner radius. And can I do the small inner radius as well? Good, so they're being manipulated independently. So the last thing, again, is to flip this triangle around. So this point is here, this point is here, and this point is straight across. So we'll go from here, here, to here, to here. So we can just copy and paste these points. So let's just find the points we just added large inner radius to, and that will be the points for our red triangle. So here's the first one with large inner radius. That's this point. And we will copy that and make that the first point of our red triangle. Good. And let's find that point. It should be this guy here. Yep. This also based off of large inner radius. Copy that, and that will be the second point in our red triangle. Oh yes, I'm not in edit mode. That helps. There we go. There we go. Okay. And then finally, yeah, again, it looks like a sliver. But the last point will have the same y value as the point before it, because it'll be just over here. So we'll copy and paste that y value. And then the x value is this here, which in this program is just the plain old x variable. Hey, that's looking good. And we can directly manipulate the points. Let's turn on the whole thing and do a final tweak. All right, oh, actually, we got lucky. I think that's actually just what we want. But we can still directly manipulate them if we want. And there we go. I think we got it.